They laughed at her tattoo. Then the SEAL captain asked, "Who authorized that mark?" Some stories don't begin gently. They begin with a punch to the heart. And if you're watching this right now, make sure you like this video and subscribe to Kindness Tales, because what you're about to hear will stay with you long after the screen goes dark. It started on a Monday morning when the sun felt too bright, and the corridors of the Naval Administrative Building echoed with cold footsteps. Maya Carter walked through those halls, clutching her file against her chest, hoping no one noticed the faint tremor in her hands. She was new, an intern assigned to the base records department for 3 months, and all she wanted was to stay invisible. But the moment someone noticed the small tattoo on her wrist, everything changed. It was a simple mark. 3 black lines forming a downward-pointing triangle, sharp and clean, the kind of design that didn't scream for attention but whispered a quiet story. The other interns giggled when they saw it as she reached for a stack of folders. "Nice doodle," one mocked. "Trying to look tough?" Another chimed in, "What is that, a discount logo?" Their laughter prickled under her skin, but Maya simply pulled her sleeve down, lowered her gaze, and focused on her work. She had never told anyone what the tattoo meant. Not here, not anywhere new. It was a symbol carved into her life long before ink touched her skin. It was the mark her brother used to draw on napkins when they were kids, claiming it was their secret badge, something no one else could claim. When he became a Navy SEAL, he told her the mark meant always return home. But he didn't. The day 2 officers visited her family's small house, the world dimmed. She got the tattoo a week later. She didn't choose it for fashion. She chose it for memory, for longing, for love. But no one here knew that. They only saw ink, not grief. Maya stayed quiet because that was easier than explaining, easier. Then reopening a wound, she still carried like a second pulse. The mockery grew throughout the week. No one was cruel enough to make headlines, just constant enough to sting, whispered jokes, pointed looks, rolling eyes. She survived it by promising herself that if she just held on until Friday, she would get used to it. But then came the cafeteria incident, the day everything unfolded in a way that none of them could have imagined. It was lunchtime and the cafeteria buzzed with uniformed personnel and administrative staff. The air smelled of coffee and warm bread. Maya took her tray, found a quiet table in the corner, and lowered her sleeve as always. But today, a group of interns from her office marched toward her with grins that spelled trouble. "Hey, Maya," one said loudly, sitting across from her uninvited. "Show us your badass tattoo again." Another chimed in, "Maybe the Navy will promote you just for having it." The table next to them snickered. Maya took a deep breath. "Please," she whispered, "just let me eat. Aw, come on, we're just curious." And before she could react, one of them grabbed her wrist and yanked her sleeve up. "There it is, the mystery triangle," but his voice cut off, not because of guilt or hesitation, but because the room suddenly shifted. Conversations died. Forks froze mid-air, boots clicked with authority. A tall man in a crisp Navy uniform had entered the cafeteria. His presence demanded silence without requiring words. Captain Elias Rowan, the SEAL captain known across the base for his icy discipline and unshakable resolve, approached the room with the calm of a storm preparing to break. Even the officers stiffened. The interns scrambled to look busy, releasing Maya's wrist instantly. But Captain Rowan wasn't looking at them. He was staring directly at her tattoo. The cafeteria held its breath. He stepped forward, boots steady, eyes sharp, and when he stopped in front of her table, the interns visibly shrank. "Who authorized that?" "Mark?" he asked, voice cutting through the room like a blade. Maya's heart thrashed against her ribs. The interns stared at her in panic, suddenly unsure if they had just mocked something far above their clearance. Maya swallowed. "Sir, it was personal. I'm sorry if—" But Captain Rowan raised a hand gently, silencing her. Then something unexpected happened. Something no one in that cafeteria would ever forget. He lowered himself to one knee so he was level with her, his expression shifting from stern command to something softer, recognition mixed with grief. "That mark," he said quietly, "is worn only by the brothers of Lieutenant Samuel Carter." The cafeteria gasped. Maya's throat tightened. Her vision blurred. Captain Rowan continued, voice firm but trembling at the edges. "Your brother saved my life. Twice. And that mark, he once told us it was the only thing that kept him grounded. Said it reminded him of home." Maya covered her mouth as tears slid down her cheeks. She hadn't known that. She hadn't known her brother, shared it, or what it meant to him out there in the places he couldn't write about. The interns stood frozen, faces pale, disbelief and shame flooding them. Captain Rowan gently took Maya's wrist, not to inspect, not to criticize, but to honor. He pressed his fingers lightly over the tattoo, head bowed. Then in front of the entire cafeteria, in front of officers, crew, staff, and those who had mocked her, he stood, stepped back, and raised his hand in a crisp, solemn salute. A SEAL captain saluting an intern. Tears broke across the room. Even the ones who had mocked her felt something shift inside. They understood now that the mark they ridiculed wasn't a joke, but a memory of a hero. Maya stood slowly, returning the salute with trembling fingers. Captain Rowan nodded once, then said loud enough for everyone to hear, "Lieutenant Carter was a brother to us all, and his family is to be treated with honor." The room erupted into silent respect, not applause. Not cheering, just reverence. The interns stuttered apologies afterward, stumbling over their guilt. Maya accepted them, not because she had to, but because forgiveness was the only thing her brother would have wanted. For the rest of her internship, no one mocked her tattoo again. Instead, they asked about her brother, offered her seats in crowded rooms, and treated her with the quiet respect she always deserved. And every time Maya looked at her wrist, she didn't feel the old ache quite as sharply. Instead, she felt something warmer, a sense of belonging, of pride. Her brother had always returned home, just like the mark promised. Not physically, but in stories, in memories, in the people he saved, and in the salute that day that stitched a broken piece of her heart back together. And if you're still here, watching this moment unfold through your screen, make sure you like this video and subscribe to Kindness Tales, because stories like this remind us that kindness isn't weakness, it's honor, it's courage, and sometimes it's the only thing that brings someone home.